All right, we are back, everybody, on a Thursday night here on Open Line. Marla Williams is our guest as we talk about payday lending, the payday lending industry in Tennessee, and more specifically, the issues that can arise if you use one of these services. And we want you to be aware of all the legal aspects. And Marla's with the Legal Aid Society. We're going to get into specifically a little more what they can do to help you, and also a little more about the laws in Tennessee that regulate this industry. First, we go to the phones and we welcome Necessity. Thanks for calling in. You there? Necessity?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, Marla. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Necessity?
I'm doing great. I lost and saw the train on my question, so I'm going to get off here.
It's all right. You can say anything you want. 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 We got to get off that. That's that echo line. But if you want to call back, Necessity, just remember also, callers, it's hard to remember this because you're watching on television, but there's a delay. So once you call in and you get through, you got to mute your television. Don't pay attention to the television. You'll be all confused, all right? So, but we appreciate it. We'd love for more callers to talk about it. So let's go back to the payday industry and the laws in Tennessee. You know, on the surface, it looks like, okay, they've passed some laws that they're going to control these interest rates, but obviously there's a lot more to the loans. The fees that they charge can be where they really make a lot of money. I had a little note here about, this is what's interesting. These companies, and this is back to the Lawrence Turner column in the Memphis Commercial Appeal. He writes, according to a recent investigation by the Tennessean, those three major companies that we mentioned, Advanced Financial, Checking to Cash, and Title Max, are among the top 20 contributors to state lawmakers over the last 10 years, spending more than $2 million in direct donations and $3.5 million in lobbying. When you spend that kind of money, you know, and you want to get their attention, there's a reason for it. Let's get into that. I mean, what can be done? How can we push lawmakers to take another look and I understand it's hard when they're running for re-election and
right.
They need money for their re-election, but this is affecting a lot of folks.
Right. I mean, we need lobbyists on behalf of these people that we're talking about, you know, minorities and low-income people who are being adversely affected by this. Mm-hmm.
And you're being very nice, as I would say, being taken advantage of. I think any objective observer would say that again, but you know, their side will say we're very clear. You know, we're not forcing anyone to sign a loan, but the aggressive tactics that are used, even after maybe someone settles, maybe comes to the Legal Aid Society, gets the case resolved, and yet still getting phone calls.
That's right. Very
cheery, you know, positive. Hey, you know, we've got this new loan. Come on back, right?
Right, right. You know, in handling some of the cases that we've worked on, in doing some discovery, we've asked, you know, what did you do to earn this customary fee that you're charging?
Right.
And some of the responses we got back were like a list of, we called your client this date and this date to ask if they wanted to borrow more money. So
they're saying that the fees that they're charging, these high fees, and usually, you know, there is so many bills we see extra fees, but it's specific. Well, this money is going to go toward X, which can make sense. But they're saying, well, we need that money so we can spend it on more sales, aggressive sales.
Right. We are using that to call them up to ask them if they want to borrow more money. So, you know, as I said, you can be approved for a flex loan. Sometimes they go over the $4,000, but the law says that you can borrow up to $4,000. And if you've been approved, I mean, you go in there and you can be approved for more than you want to take home that day. And if you have that open line there, they will continue to call you up to offer you more money and hoping that you will take them up on that. And based on what we've been told, charge you for it.
Right. I'm sure that these companies have their kind of metrics, their tables, just like any insurance agency would. And I'm not sure if you do, but they must know how many people, what the percentage is of people who are going to default. I mean, to me, they're not just making their money. If I go in and get a flex loan and I pay it off pretty quickly, you know, maybe limiting the fees and the interest, still paying more than I would traditionally, they don't really like me.
No.
They don't.
No.
They're not making as much money. And again, there's nothing wrong with a company looking to make a profit. However, this just goes on and on and on, and it's amazing that we can't get lawmakers' attention on this to help out. Not to put these folks completely out of business, but just to say, hey, wait a minute.
Right. And, you know, there's some other states do not allow this.
Many other.
So.
Yeah, many other. I saw Tennessee on the list of, it was a chart that I was reading, excuse me, and Tennessee was one of the states in dark red, meaning very few real regulatory devices put into place to help people.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And instead, they end up, a lot of them maybe not even end up coming for help from you, right?
Well, yes, I can tell you that sometimes I go to court and I'm representing one borrower, but the courtroom is full of people who have been sued by one or another of these entities, and at the same time there's the other 50 to 100 who don't show up, and a default judgment is entered against them.
And they may not realize too that a lot of these, as I was reading, they could put like the title loan. Let me read this. Legalized in 1995, allows customers to take a small loan using their car as collateral. Once the loan is repaid, the borrower gets the car title back. But if they're unable to repay the principal and the high level of interest, bye-bye car. That's possible.
That is. Yeah. And let me just say just a little bit about title loans. As far as the interest in the statute, it's low, like 2% a month, but the fees, again, that's the recurring theme, is the fees that are set out in the statute, and the fees for a title loan are 1/5 of the amount borrowed. So what happens in that situation, say you borrow, you can borrow up to $2,500 in a title loan. Say you borrow $1,000, your fee is going to be, what's that, $150 or $200.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, but I'm not telling anyone something that they don't know, most people can't pay these in 30 days. And so they renew them, which means that 1/5 gets added, and then the loan amount goes up to include the 1/5, and so after 30 days, another 1/5 of all of that gets added. So you will never...
It just keeps multiplying.
Right, right.
And ends up where you're just so far deep in a hole that, it's almost impossible. So I walk into Legal Aid Society, one of the offices, I have an issue maybe with a payday lending company. What happens?
We will look into the case, and we will ask the attorney whose name is on the civil warrant to provide us with documents. We want you to prove how you arrived at the amount you sued this person for. What we have been able to do in some instances is to prove that our clients do not owe the amount that's been sued for. What happens a lot of times is that after someone stops paying, and we have sometimes our clients have only made 1 or 2 payments and then they get sued a year later. After they stop paying, they continue to add the fees. But the law, in the flex loan statute, does not allow for the customary fees to be continued to be charged. So what we see often is, say, someone has a flex loan, they default, they don't pay timely, and but the company will continue to add the customary fees even when they're not getting any payments, and that's, we argue, is not lawful.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you're right here. What matters in the end is the cost of the loan when the interest and all the fees and charges are included.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if you owe money, you have limited options, right?
That's right. Right. Let me just say another thing, too. In addition to the amount that you owe one of these businesses continuing to grow because you're not able to pay, you have your bank fees. They will have your check, or you authorize, like in a flex loan situation, you authorize the business to debit your checking account. And we all know what happens when the funds are not there is you've got, you know, there's the overdraft charges.
Oh, yeah.
So those are adding up. At the same time, the fees are being assessed to on the actual account.
I mean, how overwhelming that can be.
That is.
To try to keep track of that. And let's talk a little bit also about the pitch. I mean, these companies have a lot of money. Obviously, we see the commercials, but you know, the pitch from their end is the convenience. It's easy to get, and we're going to rescue from, you know, whatever. Here's the money. So take care of that issue right now. And I can understand why that's like, oh, it can feel like a relief in the beginning.
Right. And if you have seen these, a lot of these commercials come on late night. And they talk about how easy it is. Like, you can do this online and you'll have money in your checking account in minutes.
Yeah.
So, you know, somebody who's having a hard time, I could see how that would be attractive to them.
Yeah. All right. You want to take a break here, Emma? Take another break? We will. I can tell by the way. I don't hear her in my ear, but we're going to take another break, everybody. Give us a call, folks. Final full segment here is coming up. We'd love to hear from you if you have questions. Now's the time, 737+. Open Line returns after this.